Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the presentation Brazil and Australia Smart City Project. Today we have two special guests, Professor Tan Ijit Kanlar from Queensland University of Technology in Australia and Professor Ana Cristina Fachinelli from University of Caxias do Sul, also a member of the World Capital Institute and the City Living Lab. I will first ask Professor Tan to contextualize the project and present the study performed in Australia, and later Professor Ana will give us some insights on the results of the Brazilian study. If the audience has any questions or comments, please write on the chat and I will ask our speakers in the end. So Tan, please, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Suelen. It's my great pleasure to be among this esteemed group of colleagues. First of all, I would like to thank the conference organizers led by my dear friend, Professor Ana Cristina Fachinelli, giving me this opportunity to talk with you today. This evening, actually, it's morning here in Australia, and I believe that it's late evening in Brazil. Our collaboration with my dear friend Ana dates back to, almost like 15, 20 years. We were part of a network, Knowledge Cities network, which this conference is a result of this World Capital Institute initiative. In 2011, Ana organized a conference in Caxias do Sul that was almost cemented our joint collaborations with her. And throughout the journey, I started to work with a number of professors and also students from Brazil as well. So today it will be almost a big picture view of what we have done as a group during the last few years, more intensely, but as I try to explain that the origins dates back to at least 15 years ago. Suelen, do you mind sharing the slides? So I continue with the slides. Okay, today this session will be a double act with Ana and myself. I'll start, Ana will take on from me, and then I'll take the question and answer session. So as I mentioned, our research collaborations that takes at least 15 years, but things started to become more intensified based on Ana's recommendation. A very smart Brazilian PhD student came to do a sandwich PhD at QUT, Jamile Sabatini Marquez, and her spending a year with her family, finishing her PhD on a very relevant topic to smart cities and knowledge-based development. And then later on, our intensified research collaborations with University of State University, Federal University of Santa Catarina, and I spent a year in 2018 as a visiting professor at the UFSC. My experience, very delightful experience with a number of colleagues there, made me think that maybe the relationships between individual relationships we have established with a number of colleagues and myself, we need to expand this. The first thing in 2019, when I returned back to my university, was starting a smart city research group. This research group now under the Faculty of Engineering. If you could move to the next slides, this group is led by myself. There are a number of professors, esteemed professors from the business school, from the information science background, from the transport engineering, from environmental science, so on and so forth. We with our partners. I lost the slides. So Ellen, can you go back to slide, please? Share the slide. We came up with an idea with our colleagues, including Anna, Cemile, and a number of other colleagues. How about bringing this advancing research relationship with our Brazilian colleagues into a more formal structure? As part of this structure, the first idea was organizing an event in Brazil and then in Australia. Suellen, can you please share the slides? Okay. Yep. Next one. And the next one. So with this, with the partnership of the listed universities, actually there are more people from different institutions took part on this project as well. With the Australian and Brazilian universities and also other non-for-profit or government institutions, we decided to set up an initiative to establish a more formal research collaboration. And for this research group, I have made some inquiries with our Australian federal government, and I found a suitable grant opportunity. We put a grant proposal to establish a forum, Australia-Brazil Smart City Research and Practice Forum, in 2019. And the grant was found successful and funded. And a result of this, all these colleagues from these universities, we started to work together to establish an impactful event, if you like. And we choose the opportunity of, again, Knowledge Cities World Summit, the second edition, the second visit to Brazil, which in 2019 November, the event was organized in Florianopolis, and there, as part of this event, we bring. Could you please move to the next slide? Australia-Brazil Smart Research and Practice Forum. The forum brought 6 eminent professors, researchers from Australia, and each of us paired with a well-known eminent researcher from Brazil. We gave master classes and we had a number of sessions as part of the Knowledge Cities World Summit. And the success of this forum led us to think that can we actually turn this into a more formal network for researchers and practitioners as well for smart city related areas. And the idea within this group, within this medium-sized group, have been captured, and everyone provided their feedbacks, and we had a few hours discussions, and then afterwards following a number of brainstorming sessions, and we decided to launch in Florianopolis the Smart City Research and Practice Network between Australia and Brazil. So our idea was having annual events, one in Brazil and the next year in Australia, and so on and so forth, and bring together academics and practitioners and people from the non-for-profit, profit, and government sectors together to start thinking of how we can actually solve the ever-increasing problems of our cities. As part of these activities, could you please, next slide, and next slide. One of the first activities which started in 2018, seeded with my colleague, Professor Cemile Sabatini Marquez, initiative to bring together a number of industry partners for us to work as a group to prepare and feature strategy for Florianopolis to make it, to transform into a more smart city. And we have one of the first outputs of this research group formally. The network was Smart Floripa 2030 report. And all those interested in, it's freely available, and it's in Portuguese. You can download this report. And also my colleague Jemile has published with the group a more condensed English journal article version of this report as well, and it's open access. You can access it if you Google Smart Floripa. It'll show in your Google search. And following this, next slide, please. In Australia, again, with the support from the federal government, we have conducted research. Our Floripa study was focusing on one single metropolitan city. With this one, we were wondering that how actually different size, different location, cities with different socioeconomic characteristics or geographic or innovation capabilities actually compare, and how they perform in terms of smart city development. And this study, led by myself and the colleagues from the Urban Studies Lab, has put 180 Australian cities, many of them claim to be smart or smarter cities, under the microscope. Next slide, please. This is the table of contents of the report, and the previous page have the website link of the report. Is freely available. You can download it. It's in English. In this report, we looked at a number of factors. In this next slide, it will show the methodologic approach. I'm afraid you need to click so many times in this one, so Ellen, sorry. Okay, so you click until it's finished. Sorry for that. So basically, as a methodological approach, what we have used is, this is a smart city conceptualization that I have developed actually during my time when I was doing my sabbatical, my visiting professorships at UFSC. So a smart city is a process. So we have assets. Through various drivers, we turn these assets, city assets, into outcomes. And these outcomes eventuate in the results and impact, hopefully positive, smart, and sustainable. So how this conceptualization works, the smart and sustainable city model presented here sees city as an asset. When we say city, it's natural assets, it's social assets, it's infrastructural, spatial assets, economic assets, intellectual capitals, and all these capital sets, I'm sure Anna or other colleagues spoke or will be spoken on these capital systems. If we as mean the entire city community, decision makers, experts, bring together communities, policies, and the right technologies, not necessarily the most cutting-edge expensive technologies, but the right technology a city can afford. It is possible to create desired outcomes, for example, in the economic domain, more increased productivity and innovation. In terms of society, increased livability and well-being, societal well-being. And in terms of environment, increased sustainability, increased accessibility. And then as an example is good governance and good planning practices. So this, along with the sustainable urban development and knowledge-based urban development practices, could eventually produce desired outputs and desired impacts, and turning a city into a smart and sustainable one. So this was at the core of our philosophical approach to smart cities. And the next slide will show some of the indicators that we have used in this 2020 Australian Smart Cities report. So we use as indicator categories these 4 broad domain of cities: economy, domain, society, environment, and governance. And as the indicator areas, we took the desired smart city outputs as increased productivity, innovation, livability, well-being, sustainable accessibility, good governance, and planning. And we provided 4 most representable indicators that could, for example, in terms of economic domain, represent productivity and innovation. We use economic productivity, labor force participation, the talent pool, which is the knowledge workers, and the innovation industry, so on and so forth. So this framework with 16 indicators have been applied to 180 cities or localities, local government areas across Australia. So why 180? The reason for that is there is over 650 local government areas in Australia, but in comparison to many other cities, many other countries, including the Brazil, Australian population is not so high. There's about 25 million people living, and most people are located in the major and capital city metropolitan areas along the mostly eastern coast, and some at the west coast and south coast. Meaning that although there are 650 plus local government areas, and some of the local government areas are very remote, very small, and it is quite difficult to talk about or evaluate them in terms of contemporary terms, smart city formation. That's why we have selected all the local government areas, prefecturas, in the Brazilian context, within the metropolitan areas, greater city regions, greater capital city regions, and the other cities or towns outside these areas that are over 50,000 population. So that gives us about 180 local government areas, prefecturas to analyze. Next slide, please. And the analysis, as a result of analysis, we have conducted thorough statistical analysis, and I'm not going to go into the details of this one, but the statistical analysis have clustered these 180 local government areas, prefecturas, into 3 main clusters. The first one was 60 of them was the leading smart city practicing local government areas. The second category was following, and there were 16 them as well, local government areas. And then the last 60 was the developing, those cities or towns that are investing or just recently started to invest. And unfortunately, they don't have the opportunity of having an airport, having a university, so on and so forth. That's why they're lacking a little bit. But with the right strategies, clever investment, good governance, good planning, they can be smart cities as well. And in another study, we also looked at what are the key drivers. So this is a paper recently published. We used the data from this report. We looked at what are the key factors actually driving the transformation readiness of smart cities, particularly in Australia. So this paper, there's a preprint version in the link here. You can download the open access version from that link. Gives us some insights regarding to which key drivers makes a city prepared for the smart city transportation. So this is to a degree a foundation study for those smart city wannabes to see whether they have the existing right conditions to build and to become ambitious about the transformation to become a smart city. Okay, next slide, please. So meanwhile, this year, you might have heard, my city, Brisbane, has been first nominated with a bid, and then afterwards declared as the host city for 2032 Olympic Games and Paralympic Games. So this will be the second Olympics in Australia ever. I know that in Brazil a few years ago I had a very delightful experience in hosting the games. So probably I thought I just wanted to put this slide to bring your attention here that it's there's opportunities to learn from the Brazilian case, how an Olympic Games can help or sometimes hamper the smart city development of the host cities. And next slide, please. So unfortunately, 2020, we were planning to host a Brazilian delegate in Brisbane to attend a conference, and we already organized a joint conference session on Australian Brazilian smart cities. But unfortunately, as we all know, pandemic hit, and our unfortunately all research interaction had to go online. So unfortunately, we also have a planned with my team. We were going to come and visit Brazil and have events this time in Sao Paulo and Rio, and this is at the moment postponed, most likely until next year. So, but during this time, although we didn't physically met, but our collaboration within the network have continued. And one of the probably excellent outcomes, besides we have co-supervised PhD and master's students, wrote a lot of articles, preparing special issues, so on and so forth. Besides these academic activities, with my colleague Anna and her team, we have decided a few months ago to replicate the Australian study of looking at determining the smart city performances of Australian cities in the context of Brazil. So looking at the performance of Brazilian cities in terms of sustainable city potentials and transformation. And the study uses a similar methodological approach to the Australian one I have presented a few slides ago, but obviously the country context is different, and to a degree, although very similar, there are some governance and also cultural differences. Therefore, we have decided to have modify the indicator sets, and after very lengthy discussions, and my colleague Anna will go and explain to you the indicators that she has used in this study, we have come up with a very excellent set of indicators that actually perfectly picks the context of Brazilian cities. And as the focus at this phase one of the joint study, we have decided to focus on the capital city performances. So I'll hand the floor to Anna to actually talk about the initial findings of this study. We were actually willing to finish the report and launch it during this conference, but I think it's going to take a little bit more time. Over to you, Anna. Please share your insightful findings with us.
Okay, thank you, Tan. Good evening, everyone. Well, first of all, it's an honor and a joy for me to share this session with my dear friend, Professor Tan. Today, Professor Tan is in Australia, but as he said, he has already lived for a year in Florianopolis. He has visited our region more than once. In short, Professor Tan knows Brazil. And we are very happy to participate in the Australia and Brazil Smart City project. Thank you, Professor Tan. Next, please, Swelling. I don't know if you are sharing. I don't think so. Okay. What I'm the second slide, please, Swelling. Yes, here. What I'm going to present to you is part of the analysis of the Brazilian cities. As Professor Tan said, it is a work in progress, so the results are quite recent. It is the first time we have presented this data. This is a work carried out in partnership with colleagues from the Federal University of Santa Catarina, Uninove, and the University of São Paulo. Researchers from our City Living Lab carried out the calibration of the methodology, the collection and analysis of data. Now, together with Professor Tan and with the partner group, we will discuss the analysis and write the final report. Next, please. We often say that Brazil is a country of contrasts. This statement is true also when we observe the population living in our capitals, our capital cities. We go from thousands to millions. The fact is that more than 24% of the Brazilian population lives in capitals. They are cities that house state governmental and legislative structures in addition to municipal governments. What is decided in the capitals will reflect in other cities in the state. That is why we developed our study in Brazilian capital cities. We assume that they are cities whose indicators represent a kind of thermometer of smart cities in Brazil. Next slide, Swelling, please. To carry out the study of Brazilian capitals, we mirror the methodology used by Professor Tan in Australia. However, it was necessary to make some adjustments regarding the singularities of our country. Next, please. So we included the technology dimension with 5 new indicators. We also included new indicators and adapted others, as you can see in this chart. These are indicators related to salary, education, basic sanitation, research, and development funding. Once our indicator structure was defined, our researcher team at City Living Lab collected this data for all Brazilian capital cities. We then proceeded to the statistical analysis, whose results you will see in the next screens. To arrive at these numbers, we used a normalization technique based on minimum and maximum performance. There is the maximum performance on all collected data is 1, and the minimum collected performance is 0. So all data were distributed in this range. On this screen, you can see the cities that were closest to the maximum and the ones that were closest to the minimum. Next, please. To get an overview of the dimensions of smart cities at the macro level, I mean at the country, we organize the data by region. We can observe that the south and the southeast regions are above average in all dimensions. The Midwest is above average in the economy and environment dimensions, and the North and Northeast regions reach the average in the society dimensions. Next, please. By applying the smart city assessment model as Professor Tan did in Australia, we were able to calculate the index scores for each capital city. Note that with the exception of Brasilia, the cities that occupy the top positions are in the south and southeast regions. In the next step, in the next slide 2, Swelling, please. Following the method adopted in cities in Australia, as Professor Tan explained, we also divided the cities into 3 clusters using the 3 equal groups. You can see so the 5 dimensions and overall performance and 25 indicators. The green line corresponds to leading capitals, the yellow to the following capitals, and the red to the developing capitals. Note that in the category chart, all cities are similar in the society dimension, which is close to the minimum as it is in line 0.2, which is composed of health, education, security, housing, and income indicators. The dimensions that have a better performance near of 0.6 are economy, formed by productivity indicators, labor force, talent pool, industry income, and the dimension of governance, formed by smart policy, sustainable policy, participation, research support, and university indicators. Next, please. On the next slides, you can see the graphs of the individual performance of each city. Swelling, if you want, you can, yes, next to until the end. Because I won't go into each of them now, but the data will be available in the report. We are due to publish, we hope, in December. So that's what I had to present to you today. I give the floor back to Professor Tan. So if you have some questions, we can discuss our result and our plans. Professor Tan, is he still there? So if you want, when we are...
Okay. All right, excellent.
Okay.
So let's start with the next stage. I was talking to myself and I realized no one is hearing me.
Okay. No, I will tell what cities were in green line, yellow line.
Yes,
But
that's great. I followed your presentation with great interest. Look, may I say congratulations. This is an amazing study. And this also underlines the importance of the network that we are trying to establish. For example, Anna took a study that we have conducted in Australia. She advanced it, by miles. She introduced a new category, technology category, which was missing in the original one. At that time, I didn't think of it, or neither of my colleagues. And also add additional indicators for every category, every 5 category, to make it more thorough, and replace some of the categories with more suitable indicators, because the context matter. We are talking about cities. Cities are living organisms. Cities doesn't grow by themselves. We build them. So it's human culture and governance products. So the indicators that we apply is context driven. Although we are living in a modern world, there are so many of maybe half of the indicators are identical to both contexts, and so we are not that different from each other. But there are these contextual differences that Anna perfectly depict them and integrated in this study. So I'm really looking forward to the published version of this report. And I think our colleagues are seeking some sponsorship from some, government or private institutions to, hopefully this will happen. And, late this year, it will be published. The Portuguese version will be really good. And also we'll do next year top, leading journal version, as we did in Australia, in one of the, maybe again, same journal in cities. Publish the results in English for the audience. Okay, now the floor is open for questions and answers, or any comments you may have. Okay. Ooh. Question. I was actually asking, thinking that Javier might actually ask the question. Okay, so we need to read from you, and that's perfect. Javier directs the question: what are the main lessons learned from the Australia-Brazil collaboration? So I'm assuming that my dear friend Javier, meaning the formal collaboration that we have established during the last 2 years, because our research and collegial collaboration has been more than 10 years, 15 years. From my point of view, I think the biggest contribution was understanding a different culture and different contexts where the same solutions wouldn't work. So the collaboration makes the researchers in the network to be more resilient, and it made them resilient to think issues from a various different angles, and also building this network of collegial collaborations is very important, as in this study has shown that Anna took a study and built on it. So this will help someone else elsewhere in Australia or Brazil, maybe 1 or 2 years later, advance it further, build more on it, and then implement it, and to address issues that maybe we haven't seen or not noticed it at the moment, and it will be possibly a breakthrough. So I guess that working, and hopefully after the pandemic ends, this will be more personal visits and PhD students visits to different countries and bringing this research collaborative, international, and interdisciplinary. So the Smart City group is fully interdisciplinary. I'm urban planner. We have engineers, we have computer sciences, we have social sciences, and Anna's group, there is variety of disciplinary background. So we learn from each other. I guess this is my 2 cents on that topic. And what do you think, Anna?
Well, from my point of view, I think the main lessons is about the conceptualization of a smart city. And we have a few options to manage data according smart city categories, but the conceptualization behind the model Professor Tan you used Tan in Australia is I think is very suitable for the our reality. The fact we could put in the model new indicators, this flexibility was very important to have the big picture of the cities. So it is not just to take a model and applied it. We made an effort and we had a good dialogue to make some adjustments and for being more realistic for our country. And it was possible because we have a good intellectual relationship, you know. We have a good communication as a researcher, and I think this is very important when we have a collaboration project. We need to have this possibility to change, to adapt, to adjust the models. And this is in this case, in this project, we are working together. For me, is the very important, and also for our team, because they perceived, and we talk about that.
And one thing, if I may add, I know that there are a number of questions that the future work, I think, should involve extending our collaborators within the network, expanding to other universities, other industry sectors within both
Yes.
Brazil and Australia. So our next year's goal, so the closure of the borders pandemic has just hampered these attempts, and maybe even extending the network, triangulating, adding other countries into the mix as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you, Tan. Thank you, Anna. We have another question from Vinicius. He's asking, do you believe that this type of work can be done in metropolitan areas, comparing one region to another or checking which metropolitan region is smarter than the other? If you could give your point of view, Tan.
So my answer is really short, yes, and it's our 2022 research planned already for this. Anna, if you don't mind expanding this a little bit.
Yes, sure, I agree. Yes,
so Anna, in her lab, in her university, collected a massive amount of invaluable data. So I think from the continuous efforts that she's put into the last few years, she will be the queen of data analytics for Brazilian cities, regions, metropolitan areas within the coming years, because she has so much. And I think with the help of the people on the network, we need to bring this information to a useful platforms ideally as widely as accessible as possible, so actually governments or other authorities can make use of these reports.
Yeah. I think we
Okay.
have a question talking about
Yes,
that.
we have one more question from Thais. In your opinion, how could all these data help our government to rule more focus in a sustainable growth of our city?
Well, can I answer then?
Yes, please go ahead.
Well, regarding the Brazilian cities, I think we should help our governments to use data. It's not so simple to be prepared to decide based on data, and it is in our focus to help cities and public agents to decide based on data.
And also one thing is that data is very difficult for government authorities to interpret. I think that brings the importance of the job that Anna is doing it. She's not only providing the data, but she's interpreting it, saying that these are the findings, these are the potential policy directions that our cities needs to follow. So it's just basically informing the decision making in Brazilian cities. That is invaluable for the government agencies.
And there is another important point, I think, and because we are doing is open, and is open for everyone. So the city's government know that people are accessing data. People are seeing, people can form other opinions based on data. So I think this mobilize public managers to use data because the citizenry are looking for data. So maybe I have some hope in this way.
Yes, indeed.
We have some comments from Javier. He's congratulating everyone involved in the project. And also Tatiana is saying that it's good to see this research thriving. Congrats to all. I would ask Anna and Tan if you have any further comments or if the audience has any further questions.
Just basically, I would like this network to grow and thrive, so we continue actually developing the quality work that we are doing and expanding it to broader regions and different aspects of the smart cities. And this way, we actually make a difference. So this is, after all, it's not just a personal exercise of publishing something. It's just like we are trying to make an impact in both countries, and for both countries to learn from each other, and we are learning from each other, and we are bringing back to our homes and communicating this message locally here. I think this is very important. And please, if anyone interested in, just join our network. There's no membership fee or anything. It just it's open to anyone who is interested in smart city research. Smart city is very broad research. It's an umbrella concept, and pretty much a lot of things involved in it. So I think the idea is just expanding our network within next year, and this way we can add more flavor. We can cover more voices, more new opinions, and from working together, I think we'll become stronger and we'll make big difference in our countries.
Yes, and the impact we want is moved by a purpose. We want better cities for all, for our kids, for our families, and the city. I used to say the city is where the life happened. So we feel all consequences of a good or bad city in our lives. So we have a purpose, and I I am convinced that research can do the difference, and I believe that people more well informed will be more engaged, and will have a positive behavior regarding the city. So this is the center of our purpose. And thank you, Tan, to share your knowledge with us. We learn a lot with you, with this work, and I hope a good future for all, for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate this a lot. And thanks you again for inviting me to this conference. And good luck with the rest of the conferences. And I'm looking forward to our continuing and increasing research collaborations in the new year. Thank you all.
Okay. Thank
Thank you all for
Thank you,
being
Suelen.
here. Thank you, Tan. Thank you, Ana. I would like to take the opportunity and invite everyone to keep with us tomorrow. So we have one last day of the conference. We will start at 16 p.m., 1 p.m. for us in Brazil with the books presentation. So please be with us, and good evening, everyone.